Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling something that at first glance looks like a standard period romance. You look at the poster and you see a king, a queen in waiting, and a stonecutter. Sounds like a fairy tale setup, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the source material we are pulling from today, the play The Mountain Does Not Answer, it takes those tropes and, well, it essentially weaponizes them.
It really does.
It's such a deceptive piece of writing. It lures you in with this promise of a love triangle, this, sweeping epic. But then you realize you're actually watching a heavy-hitting philosophical wrestling match.
Yeah.
It's loosely based on the classic Persian poem Kamse by Nizami, which is this massive cultural touchstone. But the playwright here isn't interested in a facial retelling.
No, this is a deconstruction.
That is the perfect word for it.
Deconstruction is definitely the right word. And I want to start with the visual, because the script makes a very specific demand right at the top. The stage is bare.
Completely bare.
No sets, no painted backdrops of mountains or palaces, no lush carpets. There are just three objects.
A throne, a stone, and an empty chair.
Which is the first signal to the audience that we aren't in the realm of historical realism.
Not at all. We're in the realm of symbols. These aren't just props. They represent three distinct, colliding ways of existing in the world.
So the playwright is stripping away the distraction of scenery.
So we have to focus entirely on the collision of truths.
And that's the central conflict we need to unpack. History usually frames the story of Khosrow and Shirin as a romance.
Or a tragic romance, yeah.
But the play explicitly labels itself a tragedy of incompatible truths.
And that distinction is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
In a romantic tragedy, the tragedy is that love was lost, or, circumstances kept people apart, like Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
Here, the tragedy is that the characters are living in fundamentally different realities. They're looking at the exact same world, but seeing completely different things.
So our mission today is to map those realities. We've got King Khosrow, who thinks he's the engine of history. We've got Farhad, the stonecutter, who thinks reality is only found in suffering. And then Shirin, the woman trapped between them, trying to figure out if she exists as a person or just a plot point.
And we can't forget the fourth player, the one who usually gets ignored.
Miriam, the maid.
She's the one holding the mirror up to all of this.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Let's start with Act I and the man on the throne, King Khosrow.
Khosrow is such a fascinating character because it would be so easy to play him as a generic tyrant.
A mustache-twirling villain.
Right. But the text gives him something much more dangerous, a coherent philosophy. He isn't a villain in his own mind. He is a man absolutely intoxicated by the concept of necessity.
Right. He doesn't see himself as a guy who just wants power for the sake of luxury. He views himself as, and I love this phrase from the notes, the world spirit wearing a human face.
Yes. He's essentially a Hegelian figure.
Oh.
He believes that history is a machine, a great inevitable process, and he is the engine.
So when he conquers a territory or crushes a rebellion?
He doesn't feel personal guilt because in his mind, he isn't the one doing it. Necessity is doing it through him.
There's that line he delivers to his generals that really gave me a chill. He says, "The river does not ask permission to flow."
It's a seductive worldview, isn't it?
It is. It's arrogant, sure, but it's also comforting in a twisted way. If you are the river, you don't have to worry about the morality of drowning things.
You just flow.
You have no choice but to be great.
Precisely. Khosrow believes in the dialectic. He believes that every contradiction, every conflict, is just a temporary glitch that will be resolved by progress.
So if there's friction...
You just apply more force, more history,
Yeah.
until it smooths out. He thinks he can solve the human condition by essentially governing it into submission.
But then you have Shirin. In Act 1, she's still the queen in waiting, sitting there listening to him sermonize about this river of history.
Mm-hmm.
And she cuts through all that high-minded philosophy with three words. She just says, "Rivers drown villages."
And this is the key moment for Khosrow. A normal person, or at least a person with empathy, might pause and say, "You're right, there is a human cost."
But Khosrow doesn't blink.
He smiles. He replies, "Progress always eats first."
Progress always eats first. Ugh, that is such a brutal rationalization. It hits you right in the gut.
It shows his blindness. To Khosrow, the drowned village isn't a tragedy. It's just the cost of doing business with eternity. He views people, including Shirin, as historical beings.
Meaning what, exactly? That they only matter if they make it into the history book.
Essentially, yes. If it isn't recorded, if it doesn't move the needle of the empire, it isn't real. He tells her, love, like empire, must be decisive.
He thinks you can annex a person the same way you annex a province.
He offers Shirin a place in his narrative. He's basically saying, come be a character in the Book of Khosrow. That is the highest honor I can give you.
Which is incredibly dehumanizing. Even if he thinks he's being romantic, he's treating her like a supporting character in his own biopic.
He's drafting her into his story.
Exactly. He cannot conceive of a world where he is not the protagonist.
And that brings us to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Act 2 takes us out of the palace and up to the mountain.
To the stonecutter, Farhad.
Farhad.
Now, if Khosrow is all about the narrative and the future, Farhad seems to be about the immediate, brutal present. We find him chipping away at a rock face.
And I think it's important to clarify, he's not building a sculpture.
No, he's cutting a channel through a mountain.
A task that is arguably impossible for one man.
Yeah.
But the play makes a point of showing us that Farhad isn't delusional. He knows the math. He's an ascetic.
There's a scene where a merchant comes by sort of representing the pragmatic commercial world and asks Farhad why he's doing this. Is he being paid?
Does he think he'll actually finish?
Yeah. And Farhad gives this answer that totally confuses the merchant. He says, I do it because it resists.
Because it resists.
Exactly.
It's the core of Farhad's truth. Khosrow lives in a world of words and decrees. If Khosrow says something is law, it becomes law.
But Farhad lives in the physical world.
You can't talk a rock into breaking. You can't command a mountain to move. You have to strike it.
So for Farhad, the resistance of the stone is what makes it real.
Yes. The play notes suggest that Farhad believes the world is suffering. He trusts the stone because, as he says, it breaks, but it does not pretend.
In a world of courtly lies and political maneuvering, the stone is the only honest thing.
Because it's hard. It fights back.
And that bleeds into how he loves Shirin. Because the townspeople, the merchant, they all think he's crazy. They call it a madness.
They assume he's doing this labor to win the girl. Like, it's a transaction. I cut the mountain, I get the queen.
But Farhad explicitly rejects that. He says something that I think is very difficult for modern audiences and certainly the characters in the play to understand.
He says he doesn't require that she loves him back.
Right. He says his task is to endure the encounter. That phrase stuck with me. Endure the encounter. It sounds almost painful.
It is painful. For Farhad, love isn't a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a shock to the system. Seeing Shirin woke him up. He believes that before he saw her, he was sleepwalking through life. Now he's awake, and being awake hurts, but it's better than being asleep.
So he's not trying to get her. He's trying to stay true to the fact that she exists.
He wants to be faithful to the event of seeing her. He views her as revelation. If he stops cutting the stone, he betrays that revelation.
He doesn't want to own her. He wants to witness her.
It's almost a form of worship, but it's a very solitary, intense kind of worship. It feels almost crushing.
It is. And that's the danger of it. Miriam, the maid, points this out later. She sees that Farhad isn't really seeing Shirin the person.
He's seeing Shirin the icon, the muse, the divine spark.
Before we get to that pivot, let's talk about Miriam. Because in a play full of men shouting about history and suffering, she's the one quietly polishing the silver in the background.
But the script gives her the sharpest lines.
Oh, absolutely.
Miriam is the pivot point. She's the realist. She describes herself as the witness who survives by understanding what others refuse to see.
While Khosrow is looking at the horizon and Farhad is staring at the rock.
Miriam's looking at the people.
There's that scene where she's polishing a silver platter, and the king, probably feeling expansive and philosophical, asks her what she sees in the reflection.
And she says light, and sometimes the hand that blocks it.
Wow, that is such a subtle, dangerous thing to say to a king.
She is telling him, to his face, you are the one standing in the light. You are the shadow.
But she frames it as an observation of the silver, so he can't punish her.
She seems to be the only one who understands the cost of all these high ideals. She says, philosophers starve unless they serve kings. I simply starve more quietly.
That line just grounds the entire production.
It reminds us that while the royals discuss the dialectic and the ascetics discuss endurance, there is a whole class of people who just have to survive the mess these people make.
Miriam represents the biological reality of life. Thirst, hunger, survival.
She knows that grand narratives don't put bread on the table.
So we have the board set, we have the king offering power and narrative, we have the stonecutter offering reality and devotion, and we have the watcher seeing through it all. Now we move to Act 3.
The climax. The room between.
And the setting shifts again here. We lose the mountain, we lose the palace.
We are in a bare room with a single window. Shirin is alone. And this is where the play gets explicitly, almost aggressively, philosophical.
Yeah, this part is wild. Shirin starts hearing voices. But they aren't just random hallucinations or memories. The script labels them.
As the voices of existential philosophers, we literally have Camus, Kierkegaard, and Simone de Beauvoir debating inside her head.
Which is a choice. But it works.
It works because Shirin is realizing she has to make a choice, and none of the standard frameworks apply.
So let's break down what these voices are actually telling her. First, she hears Camus.
Right. The voice of Camus tells her that the world is absurd. The rock rolls back down. It's telling her that there is no inherent meaning in the universe. Khosrow's history is a lie.
And Farhad's sacrifice is pointless.
The universe is silent.
Depressing start. Then Kierkegaard chimes in.
Kierkegaard tells her that faith is a leap without guarantees. He's countering Camus slightly. He's saying, yes, logic fails, but that's why you have to jump.
You have to commit to something.
A truth, a person, a path, without knowing if it will catch you.
And then the heaviest hitter for Shirin's situation, Simone de Beauvoir.
Beauvoir's voice tells her, you are freedom choosing itself. This is the terrifying one. Beauvoir's telling Shirin that she is not an object. She isn't a queen, and she isn't a muse.
She is a subjectivity. She has to create her own essence through her choices.
And there's that line the voice says, the question is not whether you choose rightly, but whether you choose freely.
That's the terror of freedom.
Shirin asks the darkness, what if I choose badly? And the philosophical answer is basically, then you choose badly. And that bad choice is yours. It's better to choose hell freely than to be carried into heaven like luggage.
So she's armed with this terrified realization that she is free, and then the door opens.
Both men enter. The showdown.
Khosrow and Farhad, they both demand a choice. And notice how they frame it. Khosrow offers her a name that lasts forever.
Immortality through history.
And Farhad offers her endurance. He says he'll wait forever.
Immortality through devotion.
They are both offering her a form of safety. Safety from being forgotten, or safety from being alone.
They're offering to define her so she doesn't have to define herself.
And then the rejection. Shirin looks at both of them, and she just dismantles them.
She does. She turns to Khosrow first, the king. She tells him that what he calls love is actually property.
She sees right through the World Spirit Act. She realizes he just wants to own her to complete his set.
Exactly. She refuses to be a footnote in his biography. But then she turns to Farhad, the guy who has been bleeding on a mountain for her, and her rejection of him is even more stinging.
She calls his love idolatry.
That's the one that hurts. She says, I am not an idol to be worshipped from afar.
She realizes that Farhad's love isn't about her, it's about his own capacity for suffering.
He has put her on a pedestal so high that she can't breathe. If she were to step down and just be a normal woman who gets cranky or ages or makes mistakes, Farhad's fantasy would shatter.
She says, I am a person. I contain multitudes. She refuses to be the necessary queen for Khosrow or the perfect muse for Farhad.
She identifies that both men are actually using her. They are using her to solve their own internal problems.
Khosrow uses her to prove he's all-powerful. Farhad uses her to prove he's the ultimate martyr.
And she tells them, neither of you is asking me to be free. You are asking me to complete you.
So what is the third way? If she rejects power and she rejects devotion, what is left?
She asks for the right to choose badly.
That resonates so much. It sounds so simple, but it's radical.
It is. She wants responsibility. She wants uncertain ground. She decides that she would rather build a life that might fail, as long as it is her life, than live inside a perfect story written by someone else.
It's the ultimate existentialist move. She accepts the anxiety of freedom.
And the play doesn't pretend this is a happy ending. That's why I love it. She doesn't strut off triumphant to upbeat music. The finale is somber.
Let's look at that final tableau. The three of them freeze. Khosrow puts his crown back on. But the script says he moves differently now.
It says the crown looks heavier. He gets what he wanted. He rules. But he admits to the audience that he will lie awake at night, wondering if his wisdom is just not asking certain questions.
He realizes that his history is a story he tells himself so he can sleep.
Exactly. And Farhad.
He goes back to the mountain, picks up his tools.
He says he's going to finish the water channel, not for Shirin anymore, but because the villages need water.
Which sounds noble, but he adds that devastating doubt.
He does. He wonders if he ever actually loved her, or if he just loved what she may be capable of feeling. He realizes he was in love with his own intensity.
Wow. And Shirin walks away. She removes her ornaments. She walks into the dark.
She admits she will be lonely, She admits she will wonder if freedom is just a fancy word for refusing the consolations others offer.
So nobody wins.
No, but they become real. The narrator steps in to give the thesis statement. He says, meaning is not discovered. It is made in the space between people who cannot fully meet.
In the space between people who cannot fully meet, that brings us back to the tragedy of incompatible truths.
They couldn't connect, but the friction of their disconnection created something real.
And that leads us to the very end. The outro belongs to Miriam.
The Watcher.
Everyone else has left the stage. It's empty. Just the throne, the stone, the chair.
Miriam walks out. She picks up a cup of water that Shirin left behind, and she drinks it.
That action is so grounding. While the king and the monk and the queen are having these metaphysical crises, Miriam is just thirsty.
It cuts through the pretension, and she delivers the final line of the play.
They are all wrong. They are all real.
They are all wrong. They are all real. And she adds, and that is the only philosophy that survives the morning.
It's a powerful place to leave it. The production notes even mention that at this point, the mountain is invisible on stage, but it endures.
It's always there in the background. It suggests that reality, the hard physical world, doesn't care about our narratives or our loves. It just is. And we have to live in it.
So if we strip this all down, what's the takeaway for us? We usually feel like we have to choose a camp in life. You're either a Khosrow, ambitious, driving forward, focused on success and legacy.
Or you're a Farhad, obsessive, idealistic, willing to suffer for a cause.
Right. We see those as the two options, the CEO or the artist.
The conqueror or the martyr. But the play suggests a third option, a harder, quieter option.
The Shirin option.
The freedom to just be a person, to be flawed, to be uncertain, to not have a grand narrative or a holy mission, to exist in the room between.
It's the courage to live without an answer key.
Precisely. We spend so much time looking for the answer, the clear path, the destiny. But the mountain does not answer. It tells us exactly what the title says. The answer isn't coming.
The silence is the answer.
And we have to build our lives inside that silence.
It leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on. The play ends by asking the audience a question, and I want to leave you with it today.
It asks, do you live inside answers, inside wounds, or inside questions?
And which one actually survives the morning?
That's the one to sit with.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.